This is part 2, episode 20. The fine trees were exuberant on top of the sacred mountain, the waterfall was surging down the mountain, and there were many pavilion halls. It seemed just like a fairyland, but everyone felt fearful in their heart instead. This is really eccentric, the entire scenery looked picturesque, but the bottom seemed so desolate. One practitioner, who stood at the precipice, thought out loud as he looked down. It was like he said, the top of the sacred mountain had so many grand halls, but the bottom was very desolate. There was almost no vegetation, the huge sacred mountain was all brownish. It was somewhat strange. It was clearly visible, all those halls had been through the vicissitudes of time, some were already collapsed. Where is this? What the hell is going on? The practitioners were very uneasy. We passed through the space and arrived at this unknown place. Psychic Lawrence was most proficient in the power of space, he positively announced his verdict to everyone. The mysterious woman who was proficient in time said, "We spent a lot of time to reach this place." Now, they could finally understand why it instantly turned from noon to night. Xiao Chen didn't conceal anything, he shared his experience at the foot of the sacred mountain last time. Right now, their fate was interlinked, only by working together as a group would they have a chance of survival. Not far away, the mysterious woman whose entire body was shrouded by colorful mist lightly stroked the Amethyst Dragon King's horn. She attempted to communicate with it, and she finally came back after a long time. Then she said, "The Amethyst Dragon King unintentionally charged into an ancient hall at the foot of the mountain, and after that, it mysteriously arrived at the ghost town's sacrifice altar." Everyone became silent. The Amethyst Dragon King entered the ghost town from the foot of the mountain, and yet when they came back from the ghost town, they arrived at the peak of the sacred mountain. How are they supposed to get down safely? With Xiao Chen's experience, as well as how those practitioners disappeared in thin air earlier, all of these indicates that it would be difficult and dangerous to get to the mountain foot. Let's probe around carefully as we descend. This place should not be as dangerous as the ghost town. Someone proposed this kind of idea. The other people hesitated for a moment, but they still decided to go along with it. However, just when they covered a distance of roughly 100 meters, a miserable cry resounded. The person at the frontmost disappeared in thin air. And there was no ancient hall in the vicinity. This was really somewhat frightening. They were still on the summit, they had just left from the precipitous area, they hadn't really descended yet. Looking at all the ancient halls below the mountain, everyone started to feel dizzy, they finally felt a sense of danger. Life or death will be decided by fate. Let's go. One practitioner was very courageous, he actually took the lead. This time everyone advanced for nearly 50 meters, then the practitioner, who took the lead, disappeared in thin air. He didn't even had enough time to shout. How did this happen? Everyone was somewhat terrified, nobody was willing to take the lead now. "Let me take the lead." The mysterious woman shrouded in colorful mist walked in front without hesitation, everyone couldn't help but admire her courage. "No, let me do it." Xiao Chen walked out from the crowd just at this time, because he recalled what happened last time. Keek had saved him twice in the most crucial moment. He put Keek on the ground and said, "Little monster, you should stay a little far away from me, you must save me at the crucial moment." Keek was very dissatisfied to be called a little monster by Xiao Chen. It grabbed Xiao Chen's long hair lightly and pulled it. After that, it nodded and blinked its big eyes as it got to the back of the line. Soon after, it jumped onto the back of the Amethyst Dragon King without restraint. Roar! The Amethyst Dragon King was completely enraged, this little critter actually dared to offend it again and again. It really made this Dragon King furious, how it wished it could tear the little critter apart immediately. "Don't get angry." The woman shrouded in colorful mist appeased the Amethyst Dragon King, who was about to go on a rampage. She said, "It is much smaller than you, let it have its way for a bit. A Dragon King must have a Dragon King's elegance." Very clearly, the mysterious woman treated the Amethyst Dragon King as a child throwing a tantrum. The Amethyst Dragon King let out a growl, then it turned around to take a quick glance at Keek. It seemed like Keek was no longer provoking it and sitting on its back quietly. Keek was currently keeping an eye on Xiao Chen nervously. After changing their direction, they walked down the mountain for about 10 meters. Xiao Chen's figure suddenly disappeared, and at the same time, that area burst forth with divine radiance. Keek had made its move. It actually dragged Xiao Chen back. Everyone was dumbstruck, they couldn't believe their eyes and looked at this cute little critter. Even the Amethyst Dragon King also exposed an astonished expression, it turned its head around to look at Keek who was on its back. Hee hee, Keek laughed out like an innocent child. Xiao Chen, who had just paid a visit to the gates of hell, seemed to have sensed something. He turned around and said, "Just now I felt like I was enveloped by inexhaustible baleful aura. It was the same aura as in the ghost town. If we disappeared in thin air at the sacred mountain, we might end up in that ghost town again. Moreover, we might end up in a more dangerous place." From this, it could be seen that the quiet sacred mountain was also brimming with danger. A bit of carelessness would mean losing their life. It was incomparably thrilling as they advanced for more than 200 meters. Xiao Chen disappeared in thin air 3 times, but he was pulled back by Keek's bizarre ability. However, something bad happened, because Keek squeaked, and using a gesture to tell Xiao Chen that it was getting more and more strenuous. All of them couldn't help but feel anxious. If they keep going until the waist of the mountain, the ancient halls would increase in numbers. It was impossible to avoid them all. Everyone had already analyzed the regular pattern. The closer to the halls, the more dangerous it became. How would they be able to leave the sacred mountain like this? When Keek pulled Xiao Chen back for the 6th time, the Amethyst Dragon King exposed an astonished expression. It noticed how Keek had a completely different expression from before. After that, it actually emitted a divine radiance, and pulled one practitioner walking in front back from the netherworld. It was actually a divine ability similar to Keek's very own, but it was not as powerful as when Keek used it. Everyone looked at the Amethyst Dragon King in awe. They couldn't help praise the Syndicate Dragon King. It truly lived up to its name. It actually learned Keek's skill in such a short amount of time. But when it heard everyone's compliment, the Amethyst Dragon King exposed a rarely seen ashamed and upset expression. The mysterious woman was very close with the Amethyst Dragon King. She could more or less guess the reason it felt ashamed. So she asked, was Keek using the dragon's divine ability? The Amethyst Dragon King nodded its head in distress. Seeing this as a result, everyone seemed to have petrified. Keek was actually using the dragon's divine ability. I thought that was the case. When we were in the ghost town, I saw the monarch lion dragon and tyrannical dragon using this kind of skill to confine, destroy, and exterminate everything. Not only was all the practitioners looking at Keek in awe, even Xiao Chen, who walked in front, stopped his footstep and turned around to look at that cute little snow-white critter. And just at this time, Keek became a little muddle-headed. It opened its eyes widely and looked at everyone in puzzlement. It had an innocent look. Buddhist Asian recited the chant and said, "I once saw an ancient scripture regarding the records of exotic beasts. It seemed like there were 2 or 3 exotic beasts that were as strong as dragons. They possessed unparalleled inborn intelligence and could practice the divine ability of every race. I believe Keek might be one of those race, but it's a pity that the ancient scripture was based on Buddhist doctrine. The record was lacking in details. It didn't describe the exotic beast's appearance and name in detail." Keek's status increased greatly. Everyone looked at it more passionate than ever. How they wished they could just embrace the little critter in their bosom and take it away. Unfortunately, the little critter didn't understand their ways of thinking at all. It blinked its glittering big eyes and looked at everyone innocently. It seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied being stared by everyone like that. It waved its little paws at everyone while squeaking resentfully to protest. Everyone had different thoughts and began to push their way forward again. However, they were getting closer to those densely packed castle halls below. Light and shadow flickered. Xiao Chen disappeared, but he was pulled back by Keek in the nick of time. However, it seemed to be struggling a little. Only after the mysterious woman, Lawrence, and Buddhist Asian hastily offered their support did they manage to drag Xiao Chen back in the end. "Not good, we can't go on like this. Otherwise none of us would be able to get to the mountain foot alive." Xiao Chen halted his footstep. He didn't want to die. It was only because Keek was capable of saving him did he dare to take the lead. But now, it was getting more strenuous for Keek. It will eventually slip up if they keep up like this. Then what do we do? Don't tell me we're just going to wait for our impending death here. Everyone was feeling anxious. They didn't have any ways out. "Guys, look over there. It seems like a sacrifice altar." The extraordinarily beautiful Rowena suddenly cried out in shock. The huge sacred mountain region was very vast. Behind a pile of rubble at a distant place, it seemed like there really was a sacrifice altar. It was made by piling up dark brown rocks. Everyone walked over there cautiously. In the end, they looked at each other in dismay. That place seriously had a sacrifice altar that was about 10 meters tall. It was emitting unbounded ancient aura. Xiao Chen said, Rather than waiting for our impending death here, we might as well make a bet. Heh. Let's take our chance then. The solitary sword demon agreed. Even if he was conceited and arrogant, he also had no other way to get out of this alive. Everyone walked on top of the ancient sacrifice altar together. A gloomy baleful aura was transmitted from above. It seemed like it had once been stained by blood. Even though countless years had passed, they were still able to see the dried-up bloodstain. But when dozens of people got to the top of the altar, the ancient sacrifice altar didn't have any response. It seemed like nothing more than an ordinary altar. Blood sacrifice. It seemed like this altar requires blood to activate. Someone proposed this kind of idea, because they saw the dried-up bloodstain on the sacrifice altar. Very well, then each of us will spill some blood on the altar. Everyone pierced their fingertip, and let the blood drop spill on the altar. Although the blood was limited, they could clearly feel the changes of the sacrifice altar. Its entire body actually turned red and burst forth with bloody light. At the same time, the stars in the sky actually shot down one after another light beams. All the light beams gathered on the ancient sacrifice altar. The bloody light then soared into the sky, glaring bloody radiance emerged from this area. Meanwhile, a bizarre image came into their view. Everyone actually saw the ghost town. All of their faces turned pale at the thought that they will be sent back to the ghost town. This made them feel very discouraged. Fortunately, that was just an image, it was not their destination. The intense battle in the ghost town was still ongoing. The Buddha's eternal wheel, the ancestral dragon's horn, and the brass trigrams were still bombarding the divine monolith. The dragons were also making their moves. An endless swarm of evil spirits, who carried sky-rending baleful aura, were approaching the divine monolith. What made everyone even more terrified was that there was actually a sea of blood hovering on top of the ghost town. At the center of the sea of blood, there was a mountain of bones. And on the mountain of bones, there was an ancient castle emitting dense negative aura. This made everyone stupefied. Wasn't this the diagram carved on the divine monolith? The real thing actually appeared. They clearly saw the picture carved on the surface of the divine monolith while they were in the ghost town. Therefore, they were able to recall those images in their mind. What was carved at the uppermost of the divine monolith was an ocean of blood as far as the eyes could see. There were hundreds and thousands layers of raging waves. A mountain of bones stood at the center of the bloody ocean. And in the center, the dragons were galloping in the skies. It seemed like they were wailing. Many people and deities were also struggling. Below the dragons and those deities was a ghost town. The demonic aura was dense, the pitch-black gate to hell was half opened. It was completely lifeless beyond the gate, it was a world of complete darkness. And below the ghost town, there was an auspicious land. The castle was idle, the resplendent divine trees and jade-like grasses were all over the place. However, not much was outlined. It was already at the bottommost of the divine monolith, it was hard to observe more of the vast land. Right now, the sea of blood and mountain of bones had made an appearance. The ghost town also appeared. Could it be that there was really a pure land underneath the ghost town? Everyone was full of doubts. All of these indicated the picture recorded on the divine monolith was real. Glaring bloody light flashed. The light beams, shot down by the stars in the sky, were absorbed by the ancient sacrifice altar. After that, it emitted blazing rays of light. Everyone was unable to open their eyes anymore. But they knew that they will be sent to an unknown area. Certainly, they were putting their lives on the line. After all, the sacrifice altar was not supposed to be used to travel back and forth. It seemed to be used for sending offerings. If their deduction was correct, their situation was extremely dangerous, because it was very possible that they will be delivered to the door of the Saint Demon as an offering. However, they didn't have any other choice, they could only take the bet. They were crossing the empty space once more, and it was pretty much the same as the last time. The light beams flew past in the endless void sky like shooting stars. It seemed like countless stars were flickering as they forged ahead, it felt as if they were pushing their way through under the resplendent starry sky. The time was already twisted. It made people unable to understand whether the time was passing by quickly, or if the time was flowing slowly. It lasted until a glaring radiance burst out. After they came out from this bizarre space, all of these finally came to an end. The cold air whizzed past. The snowflake danced in the breeze. A vast expanse of whiteness was now present before everyone's eyes. They actually found themselves at the Great Snow Mountain. This is The Great Snow Mountain at the west side of the Sea of Bones. The Sacred Mountain at the east, the Sea of Bones in the center, and the Great Snow Mountain at the west, these three formed a straight line. These were extremely unusual locations on the Dragon Island. Xiao Chen never thought these three actually had a great connection. Everyone was anxious and frightened. They didn't know if they had really came out alive this time around. It was currently at the crack of dawn, the east already exposed marble white color of the dawn sky. The cold wind roared furiously on the snow mountain, the snowflakes danced wildly. This snowy world was particularly cold. Will there be any terrifying existence here? Will we be eaten up as offerings? One practitioner's voice was somewhat shaky. They faced death again and again in such a short period of time, it already made him lose heart. He was unable to endure any more psychological damage than this. After the series of dangers, only 16 people were able to get this far. And this included Qingguang Wang, Luanhui Wang, and the other skeleton. If they only count those who were completely human, then there were only 13 of them. When everyone was feeling somewhat nervous, Keek let out a cheer. It stepped on the Amethyst Dragon King's head and jumped onto the snowy ground. It happily rolled on the ground, it was like a happy little snowman. The young Amethyst Dragon King was very unhappy. It let out a growl towards Keek, who was much smaller than it, but it didn't launch an attack. The time passed by peacefully. The blizzard already came to a stop. The morning sun rose from the east and gave off a golden radiance. It was a morning filled with hope. Everyone cautiously trod on the snowy ground. They climbed on top of a snowy peak to survey the green hills at the distant place. They didn't encounter any danger here. There's no restriction here, we are saved. One practitioner shouted happily. Illusion Master Carlos was the first to soar into the sky. He quickly flew towards a distant location. After he was convinced that they were no longer in any immediate danger, he couldn't help but run away as soon as possible. Otherwise he and Xiao Chen will definitely engage in a life and death battle, since they already don't have any common interest. Ha ha, the solitary sword demon laughed heartily, his sonorous voice was like trembling metal. He looked at Buddhist Asian, Xiao Chen, and the rest before he lifted his metal sword and left at lightning speed. The woman shrouded in colorful mist also left swiftly with the Amethyst Dragon King. Soon after, the survivors left one after another. Rowena didn't leave, she revealed a heartfelt smile. She used her lily-white hand to tightly secure Yang Qingcheng's hands, preventing her from running away. This made Yang Qingcheng hate her to the point that the root of her teeth was itching. We finally escaped. As soon as Lawrence finished these words, he fell onto the snowy ground. His wound was not light. At the same time, because he was exhausted, and that he was physically weak to begin with, he fell asleep the moment he relaxed. One new life, one transformation. It seemed like Buddhist Asian gained an insight. He welcomed the morning sun and sat on the snowy ground. As a martial artist, Xiao Chen had a physique far more powerful than ordinary people. Even though he felt a bit exhausted, he didn't have the desire to take a rest. The God Slayer, chaotic patterns, demon suppression, and death blow, these 4 killing techniques were enticing him like an ancient spell. He rushed in between the snowy mountain to smooth out his body, then he began to practice these 4 killing techniques on the heavenly diagram of the divine monolith. Under the morning sun. At the snowy field. Xiao Chen's body seemed like a mosquito. He jumped to the summit of a snowy mountain, and left one after another after images. He pushed his way through like a streak of divine radiance. With a rumbling sound, the summit of the snowy mountain was actually destroyed. His momentum was extremely great. At a distant place, Rowena and Yang Qingcheng's face already discolored. Buddhist Asian, who was currently sitting in meditation, also felt emotionally moved. Xiao Chen stood on top of the snowy mountain. His tall and lofty figure was covered by the golden radiance of the morning sun. It looked like he was adorned with a layer of divine armor. Just now, he clearly felt the power of the 4 killing moves. He merely used the first, God Slayer, only, and it already drained all of his strength. However, it was extremely powerful. He actually destroyed the mountain peak. If he could use these 4 killing moves without a limit, then he would be peerless among those of the same generation. After resting for sufficient time, Xiao Chen proceeded to practice the second killing move, chaotic patterns. But it was the same as before, his innate power was unable to keep up. Only a fraction of power was displayed before the power in his body ran dry. Due to this, he was really looking forward to the day he could fully control these 4 killing moves, God Slayer, chaotic patterns, demon suppression, and death blow. He was unable to exhibit their full power right now, and yet they were already so terrifying. If he was really able to fully control them, then just how powerful would they become? After practicing 2 of the killing moves, the God Slayer and chaotic patterns, even after Xiao Chen had sufficient rest, he felt his qi and blood was having adverse reaction. His body seemed somewhat unstable. He naturally knew what was going on. He had this kind of feeling a really long time ago. Whenever he practiced a powerful technique, he would feel like this. And precisely because of this, he deduced it was because of the technique he practiced in. It seemed to be imperfect. There ought to have a follow-up. To be able to come out alive, after charging into the ghost town this time. It truly turned into a great opportunity for Xiao Chen. He was actually able to find the continuation of the qi training diagram bestowed by heaven. Xiao Chen calmly stood on the snowy peak. The qi training method bestowed by heaven was very special. It didn't require one to sit in meditation to practice. That heavenly diagram embedded into the depths of his mind reappeared at this moment. He began to operate the secret technique in accordance to the diagram. It was truly like water and milk blended together. It was really the continuation of the qi training diagram he found previously. It was completely compatible with the former qi training method. Xiao Chen felt his entire body was extremely relaxed. The adverse reaction between his qi and blood from earlier completely calmed down. He stood like that for half a day. His surroundings was flickering with multicolored radiance. It made the snowy ground brightly lit in contrast to the surroundings. All the spiritual energy was forcefully gathered together and rushed into his body. In the end, Xiao Chen's 2 legs actually parted 3 inches from the ground and floated in the sky. A faint luster was circulating around his body. Every inch of his skin was like divine jade. In the afternoon, Xiao Chen finally woke up from that mysterious martial domain. A layer of crystal-clear radiance circulated around his entire body. He actually broke through to the 7th celestial layer very naturally. All because his secret technique improved one step further. He broke through to a new level very naturally. Lawrence also woke up a long time ago. He kept drawing one after another diagrams on the snowy ground as if he had been possessed by the devil. It was a very mysterious space magic that was recorded on the stone fence. It could be considered a priceless treasure for him. Xiao Chen and Yizhen didn't disturb him. They let him remain submerged in that selfless domain. 2 days had passed without any water and rice. Buddhist Yizhen hunted a few snow rabbit. He and Xiao Chen used their pure energy to melt the snow and wash the rabbit meat. After that, they operated the secret technique and used the blazing divine radiance to roast the rabbit meat. This could also be considered some kind of unconventional practices. The aroma of the meat finally woken Lawrence from that selfless domain. His stomach betrayed his wisdom and called out with a grumbling sound. The remarkably beautiful captive, Yang Qingcheng, didn't get mistreated at all, and she also didn't regard anyone as outsider. She sat along with everyone and enjoyed the meal. Only Keek was looking at everyone miserably. It painfully stroked its round and bulging little belly. After that, it used its pair of little paws to cover its eyes. To live on after a calamity, everyone felt deeply moved. They finally escaped from the ghost town. Even if they were at this ice and snow world, they still felt the life was so vivid. A genuine world with vitality and energy was just too great. On that afternoon, the few of them decided to leave the ice and snow world and return to the exuberant mountain woods brimming with vitality. Just at this time, Xiao Chen recalled the 3 dragon eggs he buried at this snowy mountain. The monarch lion dragon's egg had already been refined by him. The tyrannical dragon, saber dragon, and thunder dragon's egg were still preserved in good condition at this place. When they heard Xiao Chen mention this, not only was Rowena startled and excited, even Lawrence and Buddhist Yizhen were emotionally moved. They heard about the battle that unfolded on the snowy mountain due to the dragon eggs before, but they never thought Xiao Chen actually managed to get so many dragon eggs. When everyone entered that region, all of them stopped at the same time. That was because they could feel the fluctuation of life. It was precisely on that mountain peak where Xiao Chen said he buried the dragon eggs. They thought of the same possibility simultaneously. They quickly rushed up. Lawrence and Buddhist Yizhen followed Xiao Chen's instruction and destroyed a thick layer of ice. A snowy cave revealed itself. After clearing up the ice and snow at the tunnel entrance, dazzling rays of light immediately overflowed. 3 magical dragon eggs were as beautiful as jade. The green tyrannical dragon's egg flickered with glorious divine radiance. It was crystal clear, and as eye-catching as a green moon. An intoxicating radiance was circulating on the saber dragon's jasper-like eggshell. It had a striking resemblance with spiritual jadeite. Purple splendor was lingering on the thunder dragon's egg. It was extraordinarily beautiful, as if it was carved out of amethyst. And just at this time, the fluctuation of life became more intense. It actually originated from the tyrannical dragon and saber dragon's eggs. Xiao Chen and the rest were right on the mark. A young dragon, or two, was about to be born. The temperature is so low here, and yet they are able to break free from the shell. This is inconceivable. Lawrence sighed in awe. Buddhist Asian explained, the temperature have nothing to do with it. The dragon eggs will absorb the worldly essence by itself. When they collected sufficient spiritual energy, the young dragon will break free from the shell by itself. Xiao Chen also never thought it would become like this. Crack! The sound of cracking eggshell could be heard. A small crack appeared on the tyrannical dragon's egg. A green divine radiance emitted from the crack. Xiao Chen hastily called everyone out of the cave. He told Lawrence and Buddhist Asian at the entrance of the cave, I have a feeling that tyrannical dragon's egg might produce a young dragon king. I believe the first person it see will leave a deep impression in its heart. Among the two of you, who wants to go in and obtain this opportunity? What this signify was very obvious. They might be able to subdue a dragon king. Nobody would remain unstirred at such an opportunity. Rowena, who was at the side, felt really envious and jealous. But she knew a dragon king was too precious. There wouldn't be an opportunity for her. Brother Xiao, you should go in by yourself. Lawrence and Buddhist Asian unanimously decided. No. You guys had seen it yourself, Keek was not inferior to dragon kings. You guys make a decision quickly, or you might miss the opportunity. Keek's magical ability was obvious to all. Xiao Chen was speaking the truth. Buddhist Asian said, Brother Law, you go. You are a void master. Your only weakness is that your physique is inferior to martial artist. If you have a dragon king at your side, you will inevitably be unparalleled. You will become a genuine war king. No. I already heard this a long time ago. Buddhist had mythological beasts as protector of Buddhism law. If you have a dragon king beside you, your Buddhist divine power will rise tremendously. The two of them declined each other's kindness. Xiao Chen laughed and said, Don't argue anymore, it seems like there are two life fluctuations. They are almost just as powerful, but one of them will be born soon. Lawrence, you go first. The other one belonged to Asian. Just at this time, Lawrence and the others also felt it. The other fluctuation of life also became more intense. It seemed like it was also about to break out from the shell. Lawrence no longer declined. He entered the ancient cave with large strides. And just at this time, the sound of cracking eggshells sped up. A cry of shock transmitted outwards. Lawrence had seen the young dragon born with his own eyes. Roar! A dragon roar transmitted outwards. Lawrence embraced the half-meter-long green-colored young dragon and walked out. The young dragon seemed a little perplexed, but it didn't attack Lawrence. It's a dragon king. Buddhist Asian and Rowena cried out at the same time. Syndicate Dragon King were born with extraordinary gifts. They were substantially different from the rest of the dragons. This green-colored young dragon did not resemble a tyrannical dragon at all. Its dragon head was similar to that of the ancestral dragon. It was almost the same. A pair of green dragon horns shone with resplendent rays of light. Its body looked similar to tyrannical dragon. It was flickering with green radiance. The moment it was born, it began to absorb the worldly essence frantically. The spiritual essence gathered from all directions. Lawrence quickly operated his spiritual energy to feed it, allowing the little dragon king to absorb it frantically. This was a joyous and shocking occasion. I will call you the Azure Dragon King from now on. Lawrence said happily. An Asian did not say much to Xiao Chen. He already entered the icy cave, waiting for the young saber dragon to break free from the shell. Without a doubt, that was definitely a dragon king, because its life fluctuation was not much weaker than the Azure Dragon Kings. If these were to spread out, everyone would certainly feel incomparably shocked. The dragon eggs fetched by Xiao Chen was really as the rumor says. The Dragon King cultivation plan was successfully carried out, but this was actually unintentional. Crack! Crack! The sound of cracking eggshell transmitted from the icy cave. A dragon roar followed soon after. Another young dragon king had been born. Buddhist Asian embraced the little dragon and came out. It was also about half a meter long. Green radiance was lingering on its entire body. The dragon head was also similar to that of the ancestral dragon. It had a pair of jasper-like dragon horns. Its draconic body resembled the saber dragon. It had many sharp bony outgrowths. It gave Buddhist Asian no other choice but to be careful when embracing it, lest he be stabbed. Then I will call you the Jade Dragon King from now on. Buddhist Asian was very happy. He also began to operate his pure energy to feed the young Dragon King, allowing it to absorb it frantically. Xiao Chen, could you give the remaining young dragon to me? All of you already have a powerful Dragon King anyways. Rowena was acting shyly. She kept casting flirtatious glance to Xiao Chen. If a young dragon will really be born, I can give it to you. Xiao Chen replied like this. But in reality, he knew it was not highly possible, because he couldn't feel a trace of life fluctuation from the Thunder Dragon's egg. However, Rowena already ran into the icy cave happily. Only until a long time later did they hear her startled scream. How did this happen? Xiao Chen walked into the cave. He only saw Rowena using one hand to lightly drag the huge purple dragon egg. It seemed like she didn't use too much strength. Why is it so light? She was filled with doubt. When Xiao Chen received the Thunder Dragon's egg, he furrowed his brows. This dragon egg was indeed too light. Moreover, the life essence inside the egg was not very much. There was practically no life fluctuation transmitted outwards. Don't tell me the life energy within had been fought over by the two Dragon Kings. Xiao Chen had this kind of thoughts. After all, an ordinary dragon couldn't be compared to the Dragon King. Since the dragons were born, they needed to absorb a great amount of worldly essence. In the face of two Dragon Kings, this dragon egg couldn't be preserved anymore. When Rowena heard this, she immediately became dejected. She was extremely disappointed. And outside of the icy cave right now, the Azure Dragon King and Jade Dragon King had already absorbed enough spiritual energy. They could walk by themselves already. Keek also ran over from a distant place. It curiously sized up the two Dragon Kings. The Azure Dragon King and Jade Dragon King seemed to possess an enmity against one another. They faced each other, and it seemed like they would break into a fierce battle any moment now. Lawrence and Asian hastily separated them. Dragon King and Ancestral Dragon will fight for supremacy. At the same time, the fierce battle would also occur among the Dragon Kings. Right now, they definitely cannot allow them to be hostile to one another. If they were to fight, both will suffer a disastrous loss regardless of who win or lose. Lawrence and Asian were fully aware of the legend regarding the Ancestral Dragon and Syndicate Dragon King. The young Dragon King will gain an ability to protect themselves not long after they were born, then they will leave the dragon nest by themselves. From then on, they will keep fighting and grow up in dangerous environment. The young Dragon Kings might have a favorable impression of them now, but it was hard to say whether they will leave on their own accord or not. Therefore, the two of them decided they must establish a tight relationship with the Dragon Kings, just like that mysterious woman and that Amethyst Dragon King. This is truly unbelievable. To see two Dragon Kings born on the same day. I find it a little hard to believe. Lawrence sighed in awe. It was indeed very amazing. Buddhist Asian also spoke like this. I found these eggs at the vicinity of the sacred mountain. The dragons and monsters roaming around that place were the most powerful of their kinds. How could their later generations be any ordinary dragons? Xiao Chen already had this kind of premonition a long time ago. He knew if the little dragons were to be born from the dragon eggs he looted, they will most likely be Dragon Kings. The young Dragon Kings could already run as fast as the wind. They seriously lived up to their name as the mythological beasts in legend. Even though they were only half a meter long, they were already bigger than Keek. Keek was jumping from the head of one dragon to another. It felt very strange. It seemed to be extremely happy to have two new playmates. But the two proud Dragon Kings were not very happy. They resented that little critter for stepping on their head. They were even angrier that Keek was taking them to be mounts. However, they found that they were unable to do anything to that snow-white little critter. Its speed was much faster than them. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars pierced the sky. It nearly caused an avalanche. Even though the Syndicate Dragon Kings were very young, they possessed incomparable strength. When the few of them left the snowy mountain, they stood at the tallest peak to survey the Sea of Bones. That place was still shrouded by bloody light. It seemed like the battle had not ceased yet. This was indeed an earth-rending battle. Why did the rain of blood fell that night? How did the dragons who had been sealed recover their divine ability? And most importantly, why did they attack that incomparably terrifying ghost town simultaneously? What was the thing that was suppressed by the divine monolith? The few of them were filled with questions. It was really not easy to get out alive this time. This video will end here.